The courtroom was heavy with silence, the kind that presses down on your chest and makes breathing feel like a task. Every seat was filled and all eyes were fixed on the man at the center of it all. Sergeant Elijah Carter sat in his wheelchair, dressed in his military uniform. The medals on his chest glinted under the fluorescent lights. No one assisted or pushed him. Elijah had propelled his wheelchair forward on his own, his determination evident in every movement. His hand gripped the leash of the dog by his side. Rex, a German shepherd with a calm yet watchful demeanor. To everyone else, Rex looked like any other military working dog. But to Elijah, Rex was so much more. He was family. Elijah's jaw clenched as the judge spoke, his voice cutting through the silence with a weight that made his heart sink. This might be his last chance to speak. The city had labeled Rex a dangerous animal, from the complaints of neighbors worried about his protective instincts and now sought to tear them apart. His hands shook as he adjusted the leash, his knuckles white. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Your Honor," he began, his voice filled with desperation. "Rex is more than a military asset. He is the reason I am still alive, in ways no one here can understand." The morning sun cast long shadows through the courthouse windows in Huntsville, Alabama, as Sergeant Elijah Carter wheeled himself toward courtroom 3B. His German shepherd, Rex, strode silently at his side. Their movements synced flawlessly after 7 years together. The dog's gray-streaked muzzle hinted at his age, but his piercing eyes flickered with vigilance, sweeping the surroundings with the honed instincts of a soldier. Elijah tugged at the collar of his crisp dress shirt, brushing away unseen creases. At 55, his weathered features bore the weight of battles fought too young, but his steel blue eyes held an unmistakable determination. The medals on his chest glinted under the fluorescent lights, a testament to battles survived. "One more fight, huh, buddy?" Elijah whispered to Rex, reaching down to scratch behind the dog's ears. "We've faced worse odds." The courthouse corridor was already filling with the day's parade of lawyers, defendants, and families caught in various legal tangles. A few heads turned toward the striking duo, a wheelchair-bound veteran and his towering German shepherd. But Elijah barely noticed the stares. Rex had been by his side through far worse than curious onlookers. As they neared the courtroom doors, Elijah's grip tightened briefly on his wheelchair's armrest, a faint tremor betraying his nerves. This wasn't just another hearing, it could be their final stand together. The thought clawed at his chest, stirring an unease that echoed the breathless seconds before a firefight. Sergeant Carter, a young woman in a charcoal suit, approached them, legal papers clutched to her chest. "I'm Emily Harper, your court-appointed attorney." She crouched slightly, eyeing Rex with cautious respect. "And this must be the renowned Rex." Rex stood poised, his stance impeccable yet calm, a living proof of his rigorous military training. Elijah caught Emily's admiring glance. "He's still on duty," Elijah explained with a slight smile. "Always is." Emily nodded, her expression growing serious. "I've dug into your case, Sergeant, and I get what Rex means to you. But this won't be easy. The city's got a strong stance." She checked her watch. "We'd better move. Judge Morrison doesn't tolerate delays." Inside courtroom 3B, sunlight streamed through high windows, dappling the polished wooden floors with shifting patterns. Elijah guided his wheelchair to the defendant's spot, Rex dropping into a flawless down position beside him, eyes still scanning the room. The space was almost packed, and court staff stood around. "All rise!" the bailiff's voice rang out as Judge William Morrison entered, his black robes sweeping behind him. The judge, a silver-haired man in his 60s with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, settled into his chair, sizing up the room with seasoned calm. "Case number 2025 CV 4723, City of Huntsville versus Elijah Carter," the clerk announced, "regarding the petition for dangerous animal removal." Elijah's throat clenched. The cold, official words sliced through what Rex was to him, narrowing their unbreakable bond to a matter of violating city laws. Emily's steady hand rested on his shoulder as she rose. "Your Honor, we're here today to contest the city's petition to remove my client's service animal, a German shepherd named Rex." Sergeant Carter, A decorated veteran of 3 Afghanistan tours, relied on Rex as a military working dog. Their bond goes beyond that of pet and owner. They are battle companions who saved each other's lives multiple times. The city's attorney, David Marcus, stood up, his crisp suit and flawless tie exuding bureaucratic confidence. Your Honor, we honor Sergeant Carter's service and his bond with the animal, but the city has logged multiple reports of aggressive behavior. Over the past year, 3 neighbors have filed complaints. The animal's military training actually makes him more dangerous in a civilian setting. Elijah's jaw tightened. He knew those incidents, each one a misread moment from folks blind to Rex's instincts or Elijah's PTSD flare-ups. Rex had never actually harmed anyone. He'd only reacted to threats as he was taught, shielding Elijah from danger. "Permission to plead, Your Honor?" Emily asked. With the judge's nod, she stepped forward, a hefty folder in hand. "This is Rex's full service record, commendations from combat missions, his certification as a PTSD support service animal, plus statements from Sergeant Carter's VA medical team confirming Rex's vital role in his recovery." Judge Morrison took the files, poring over them with a measured gaze. "Mr. Marcus, does the city dispute the dog's service animal status?" "No, Your Honor," Marcus replied. "However, the Americans with Disabilities Act does not protect service animals that pose a direct threat to public safety. We believe Rex's military training makes him uniquely dangerous." Elijah's patience snapped. "Permission to speak, Your Honor?" The judge eyed him briefly, then nodded. "Go ahead, Sergeant." Elijah edged his wheelchair forward, his voice firm despite the storm in his chest. "Rex is not a threat. He's a guardian. He saved lives overseas and here, more times than I can tally." He paused, steadying himself. "When I came back, I was lost in a shadow so deep I didn't think I'd ever climb out. Rex was there. Every night through the nightmares, every day when stepping outside felt like a war zone." The courtroom fell hushed, every ear locked on his words. Even Marcus faltered, his polished facade softening. "One night, maybe 2 years back," Elijah pressed on, "I hit a bad spell. Couldn't tell a reality from the ghosts in my head. I rolled out to my back porch at 3 a.m., trapped in that valley where Johnson and Martinez went down." His voice cracked slightly. "Rex stayed with me for hours, grounding me, keeping me present. When the sun came up, I realized I had left my phone inside, and my chair's battery was dead. Rex went inside, brought me my phone, and stayed by my side until help arrived." Judge Morrison leaned in, his face pensive. "Mr. Marcus, has Rex ever attacked anyone?" "No, Your Honor," Marcus conceded, reluctance in his tone. "The complaints involve barking and what witnesses described as threatening posture." "Menacing stance," Elijah echoed, a sharp bite in his words. "Rex is trained to spot danger before it strikes. That's not a flaw. It's a strength. Just last month, he got restless at the park. I thought he was just having an off day, until we saw on the news that a man had been arrested there an hour later for attempting to abduct a child. Rex wasn't being aggressive. He was doing his job." Right on cue, Rex stood abruptly, yanking the leash free from Elijah's trembling hands. The dog moved toward the judge, barking sharply, his voice echoing through the courtroom. The crowd gasped, and the bailiff stepped forward instinctively. Though Rex showed no signs of aggression, his barks were insistent, purposeful, as if he were trying to communicate something urgent. "Rex!" Elijah called, his voice breaking with panic. But deep down, he knew he had seen this behavior before, countless times on the battlefield. Rex wasn't just barking, he was alerting. The murmurs in the courtroom grew louder. "What's wrong with the dog?" someone whispered from the back row. Elijah's chest tightened as he wheeled himself forward, his voice trembling. "He's not just barking. He only does this when there's danger. He's trying to warn us about something." The judge froze, his gavel forgotten in his hand, his eyes locked on Rex. The room fell silent again, except for the dog's barks echoing like a heartbeat. Whatever Rex sensed, it wasn't just about Elijah. The dog knew something no one else did. And for the first time that day, Elijah felt a flicker of hope. This wasn't just a goodbye. Something bigger was about to unfold, and Rex was determined to make them all see it. The room was silent, except for Rex's relentless barking. Each sharp sound echoed in the vast courtroom, bouncing off the dark wooden walls and cutting through the tension like a blade. Rex's stance was low, his body tense, ears pinned back, and eyes locked on the judge's bench. Elijah's grip tightened on the armrests of his wheelchair as he watched the dog. This wasn't random barking. Rex's body language was unmistakable. He had detected something. Elijah's heart pounded, a rush of adrenaline reminding him of moments on the battlefield. But this wasn't war. This was supposed to be a courtroom, a place of order. "Rex, heel!" Elijah called, his voice firm but trembling. Rex briefly glanced back at him, his gaze sharp as if to reassure his handler that he was in control. Then, without hesitation, Rex returned his focus, pacing in short, deliberate steps in front of the judge's bench. His barks shifted to deep, guttural growls that sent a shiver through the room. The audience began murmuring nervously, the earlier sympathy for Elijah now morphing into palpable unease. "Mr. Carter," the judge said, his tone laced with irritation, "control your dog, or I will have to—" "Your Honor," Elijah interrupted, his voice louder, steadier, though his chest tightened with fear. "Rex isn't misbehaving. He's trained to detect threats, bombs, explosives, danger. He wouldn't act like this unless he felt something was wrong." Before anyone could respond, the courtroom doors burst open. 3 men in dark clothing strode in, their movements precise and coordinated. Elijah's trained eye spotted the odd bulk under one's coat. Not a gun, but something worse. Rex's growl sharpened, though he stayed put, awaiting Elijah's word, discipline etched in every muscle. The lead intruder, a tall man with a facial scar, surveyed the room with cold calculation. "Everyone freeze!" he barked, his voice more frantic than commanding. "We're here for the cash. The haul from that drug bust. Hand it over, and nobody gets hurt." Judge Morrison started to rise, but the second intruder's hand moved toward his jacket. "Sit down, old man. This is not a game." Elijah felt his chest tighten as dread flooded his body. Cash in drug seizure? What are they here for? Courtroom 3. B is in a confiscation warehouse, just a veteran and his dog fighting a city ordinance. Rex's frame tensed, ready to move, but his eyes stayed glued to Elijah's. Their bond ran deeper than words. Elijah knew one signal would send Rex lunging. Yet with a hidden bomb in play, he held back, weighing the risk to everyone in the room. "Think carefully about what you're doing," Elijah said, his voice carrying the calm orexity of a combat veteran. "This courthouse has security cameras everywhere. Police response time to this building is under 2 minutes. Whatever you're being paid, it's not worth what's coming." The scarred man's eyes narrowed. "The cameras in this section have been disabled. As for the police, they'll be busy with a situation across town. Now everyone stay quiet while my associates retrieve what we came for." Elijah wheeled himself forward slightly, positioning himself between Rex and the intruders. "You've got military training," he observed. "Special forces, probably. So you'd know a military dog's no joke. Rex has fought 3 battles in Afghanistan. He's taken down suicide bombers and protected his unit from ambushes." The tension in the room was palpable. The scarred man's hand twitched toward his concealed weapon, but Elijah knew he wouldn't draw. Not yet. Drawing a weapon would escalate the situation beyond return. "Your dog doesn't scare me, Sergeant," the man said, but his eyes told a different story. He was reassessing the situation, calculating new risks. That's when Rex did something unexpected. Instead of holding his growl, he dropped low, paws scraping the floor near the leader's feet. A subtle, urgent signal Elijah knew from the field. Danger close. Elijah locked eyes with Rex, his hand steadying on the armrest. "Now," he whispered, the old command slicing through the tension. Rex sprang up like a coiled spring unleashed, his massive frame barreling toward the wiry leader. With a deft lunge, he pinned the man's arm to the floor, jaws hovering inches from his throat. Firm, controlled, not a scratch dealt. The leader yelped, dropping the jacket with the bomb as the other 2 cowered, hands flailing in surrender. Rex's growl held steady, a sentinel over the chaos, his gaze flicking back to Elijah for the next cue. Moments later, sirens wailed outside, and the courtroom doors burst open. Local police stormed in, weapons drawn, shouting, "Huntsville PD! Everybody down!" They swarmed the trio, cuffing them as an officer gingerly secured the bomb, its crude wiring glinting under the courtroom lights. Rex stepped back to Elijah's side, poised and unflinching, as the room exhaled in stunned relief. As the chaos subsided and the intruders were secured, a tall woman in a suit stepped forward, showing her badge. U.S. Marshal Emily Collins, we heard these men went into the wrong room. They thought they were going to get their money back from a drug bust a few days ago. She faced Elijah. You're Sergeant Carter, right? We knew you and Rex were here today. When chatter spiked about a courthouse break-in, we moved in quick. Judge Morrison banged his gavel, voice cutting through the din. Order! Mr. Marcus, your stance? Marcus, pale and stammering, rose. Your Honor, after this, the city can't justify its claim. Rex is no threat. He's a protector. We withdraw the petition. The judge's eyes met Elijah's, a rare glint of awe in them. We're dropping it, effective now. Sergeant Carter, Rex stays with you, earned in full. Elijah scratched Rex's ears, a quiet pride swelling. Rex had turned the tide, proving his worth beyond doubt, securing their bond in the eyes of all. The judge gave a firm nod. Case number 2025 CV4723 is dismissed. His gaze softened on Elijah. Thank you for your service, both of you. As the courtroom began to clear, Marshal Collins approached Elijah again. Sergeant, we could use someone with your and Rex's skills. The Marshal Service has a K-9 training program. We work with veterans and their service dogs to help protect courthouses across the country. Would you be interested in consulting? Elijah looked down at Rex, who had resumed his position beside the wheelchair, alert but calm. Those keen eyes met his, and a spark flared in Elijah's chest. Purpose, a feeling long dormant. Ready for a new mission? Rex's tail wagged once decisively. 6 months later, Elijah wheeled himself through the same courthouse, Rex by his side, but now they wore the badges of the U.S. gazes that once held doubt now shone with admiration. They had guided countless veteran dog pairs, building a coalition of courthouse defenders that fused battlefield know-how with the keen senses of service dogs. The echoes of war still haunted Elijah's sleep at times, and some mornings the world beyond his door loomed like an unclimbable peak. Yet Rex remained his anchor, a quiet constant amid life's storms. Together they'd found a fresh calling, shielding others and proving their rare partnership, born in conflict, deepened by trust, was not a burden but a treasure. During their patrols, Elijah glimpsed their silhouettes in a courthouse mirror. A man in a wheelchair and his German shepherd, both adorned with gleaming badges, each resolute in their own right. He bent to rub Rex's neck, and the dog pressed against his hand, a familiar comfort unbroken by time. We pulled through, pal, Elijah murmured. We've carved our spot. Rex's ears flicked in quiet agreement, and they pressed on, watchmen of order in the halls that once weighed their worth. Their saga had etched itself into courthouse tales, not merely of a warrior and his hound, but of how faith and steadfastness could reshape dread into resolve and scrutiny into recognition. Sunlight flooded through the courthouse panes, trailing faint shadows as they roamed the passages. Unlike before, these shadows bore no trace of gloom, only the whisper of days ahead and the assurance that they'd greet them as they always had, as one. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and like this video. We release a brand new episode every day, so hit the notification bell. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.